So this was the subject of my video yesterday. Talked about Nashville, talked about the Great Wolf Lodge, and I actually heard from a couple individuals who said that they were at the Great Wolf Lodge. Jonah, he said he was there actually inside the hotel, I imagine, in his room and everything like that. Everything seems to be fine with him. And then I also heard from Sophia saying that they were actually out in the parking lot and they had to wait out there for 3 to 4 hours while the whole thing was going on. She was pretty shaken up about it, obviously, talking about the incident happened in Grapevine, Texas. So definitely glad that those two individuals that weighed in, that they're doing well. And as I said last night, that there were no casualties and nothing really serious happened. Obviously, it'd be kind of a scary thing, right? But that no individuals were necessarily put in harm's way. That's a good thing. So today we're going to talk about Nashville a little bit more as some things have come out. And then we're also going to talk about Rockford, Illinois. Shooting happened there as well. So mother of 29 given 2 free homes worth $409,000 by Nashville bomber 63. Says she has no idea he signed property over to her a month ago. As feds probe if he blew himself up because he feared 5G is spying on Americans. On Saturday, reports surfaced that local man Warner was a person of interest in an explosion that occurred on 2nd Avenue in Nashville's downtown at 6:40 a.m. on Christmas morning. 3 people were injured and severe damage was reported in the blast. Cops had been called to the area a short time before amid reports of a shooting. However, when they arrived at the scene, they discovered a parked RV playing a recording that claimed the vehicle would explode in 15 minutes. Officials now say they believe the blast was the result of a suicide bombing. And those were some of the things I kind of theorized yesterday, that I had read comments from both the left and the right trying to point the finger at Trumpsters, trying to point the finger at the Proud Boys, and then obviously the right trying to point the finger at BLM and Antifa. And I was saying that I felt like it didn't fit the MO, especially for Proud Boys and Trumpsters. They may get in fights, for sure. I was just saying that it felt like a lone wolf type situation. And that's not any expertise I have, although all those episodes of Criminal Minds I've watched have contributed in some way to the profile, but it just seems like that's how things are when we see things happen like this. When there's these kinds of situations come up, and again, I cited McVeigh yesterday, but it's individuals that seem to be disenfranchised or feeling they're disenfranchised with the government, some agency, something of that nature that kind of leads them down this terrible path. And if somebody isn't monitoring them, or if they're not getting the help mentally that they may need, then sometimes this is the result of that. So it alluded to AT&T and 5G up there. And those are things I've heard before. I've heard individuals talking about 5G in terms of causing the Rona. And AT&T, it also was mentioned in some of the comments that they were felt to be part of some spying program. And I'm not touching that stuff. Haven't looked into it. Don't know anything about it. So if you're going down that road, then I would say just make sure to get information from reliable sources. I just don't know anything, so I'm not even going to comment on that. The incident has led investigators on a wild chase to determine the identity of the RV's owner. Warner reportedly owned a white RV similar to the one which exploded, and federal agents were seen outside his house Saturday, removing items from the basement of his home. Authorities will swab Warner's mother to determine if he is a match to remains found at the bomb site. DailyMail.com can exclusively reveal Warner gave the $160,000 home away for free last month. Michelle Swing, a 29-year-old woman living in Los Angeles, was given the house, but it is not known whether she had ever met Warner or whether she had family links to him. And this is where some people are saying the plot thickens, it gets interesting. You've got this crazy suicide bomber, potentially. And what I was saying yesterday was my theory was it probably was him, that either it was intentional or he kind of accidentally did it too soon. Looks like they're leaning more towards intentionally killed himself. But Swing claims she had no idea that Warner had signed over the property to her. Warner also transferred her a nearby house worth $249,000 for free in January 2019. So you have a 63-year-old man, potentially took his own life, and then you have a 29-year-old woman who doesn't live there anymore, used to, but now has 2 houses and lives in Los Angeles, so we'll see how that goes. A 29-year-old mother who was given 2 homes worth $409,000 for free by the man identified as a person of interest in the Nashville Christmas Day bombing has said she had no knowledge of the property exchange. Daily Mail can exclusively reveal Michelle Swing, who lives in Los Angeles, claimed she was unaware that Warner had signed the $160,000 Bakertown Road property rated on Saturday away to her last month via a quitclaim deed. Swing's signature does not appear on the November 25th transfer. In the state of Tennessee, you can deed property to someone else without their consent or their signature on anything, Swing told DailyMail.com. She knows the law pretty well. I didn't even buy the house. He just deeded it over to me without my knowledge. So this is all very weird to me. That's all I can say about that. However, Warner also transferred another home on Bakertown Road to Swing via quitclaim deed last year. The $249,000 house had previously belonged to a member of his family, and Warner had only been in possession of it for 5 months before giving it to Swing for free. She later also used a quitclaim to give the house to another person. So he gave it to her and she gave it to someone else. It'd be nice to know who she gave it to. Swing declined to say whether she had ever met Warner or whether she had family links to him, adding, "I've been told to direct everything else to the FBI. Daily Mail's a little bit, I don't know who they hire to write these stories. It seems like there's so many, I'm not getting nitpicky with the typos, but it just seems like if you want somebody to do a terrible job at writing these things, you can just hire me for half the price. FBI agents swarmed the $160,000 property on Saturday morning in their hunt for the mystery RV driver behind the devastating blast outside Nashville's AT&T building. The Christmas morning explosion is now thought to have been the result of a suicide bombing after it was revealed that human remains had been recovered at the scene, and officials said they were not looking for another suspect. I know, we're pumping the brakes here. We got to get back to the Swing thing. Let's call her Swing. It would be pretty nice of him to go ahead and deed this property to her, the $249,000 house, which was the one from 2019, to deed that house to her if there was not some kind of relationship. We're not going to say that it's familial, but it certainly does raise that kind of whole, cold case files, forensic files, any kind of crime show, reality or scripted that you've ever watched. It certainly makes you scratch your head a little bit in that why would he just give this house away to this woman who then went ahead and quitclaimed it to somebody else? There had to be some relationship there. Obviously, we don't know the depth of that. And you bet by now the FBI knows the depth of that. They probably had her answer every question you can think of. So they probably hashed out that relationship. It just makes you wonder what was going on there. Is there some relation? Familial, a niece, a daughter? Or was it just some kind of beta simp kind of thing where he said, "Hey, baby, you're hot, I'm old, you got a kid." I don't know if she's a smilf or anything, but you've got a kid, so maybe if I beta this house to you, then maybe I can kind of, slide in there somehow. I don't know. It just makes you think, right? According to WSMV Nashville, the FBI are working on tips that Warner was paranoid about the idea that Americans are being spied on using 5G, which could explain why the RV exploded outside of an AT&T transmission center. And he doesn't need to worry about the 5G. Don't worry. Past governments have spied on Americans without even thinking twice about it. He doesn't need to worry about AT&T. He's got his own government doing that. There she is right there. He's 63, she's 29, if she's single. This is the recent property here, the $160,000 one that he had just deeded over to her. It says here about a month before the blast. This was a $249,000 home that he gave to her in 2019 that she deeded over to somebody else. Here's some more photos of her, and 63. I could see it. It also makes you wonder, having seen all these crime shows, if there was some kind of fraud on her part. If she took advantage of him in some way and maybe caused him to have some kind of mental breakdown. Maybe He deeded that first property trying to get into her good graces, and it worked for a while. He was starting to slip away, so he did the second one. She rejected him. Again, not pointing the finger at her in any way, but all of these theories out there, it's these dang crime shows, I tell you, that make you think about like what kind of stuff is going on here, and how did she basically get her hands on $400,000 worth of property for nothing, for just being a smilf. Let's touch on this one real quick, and then we'll get back to Nashville. 3 people are shot after gunman opens fire at Shooter's Bar and Grill in Illinois bowling alley. As witness tells how she saw a man shot in the head. 6 people have been shot, 3 were killed, while the other 3 were injured. It happened just before 7 p.m. Saturday at a bowling alley in the city of Rockford. A person of interest is now in custody, and there is no longer any active threat. Rockford, a city of 150,000 people, about 80 miles from Chicago, has suffered its deadliest year for homicides, with 35 people killed. In 2020, you can kind of rail on about the whole defund thing. They're outside of Chicago, so I'm not going to say that Rockford is trying to go down that same road with their police force. Here's Shooters here. It's a bar and grill. They have pool. Pretty short story. Here's some detail here. I'm going to jump back to Nashville. This one is open and closed. Unfortunately, obviously, we have 3 people who have lost their lives, and we don't have any information yet about the victims. Obviously, we want to find out who they are so we can pay our respects to them, first and foremost. He wasn't able to go to a certain place to use a gift card he had gotten for Christmas, because all of their payment processing systems were down, that AT&T and the issues they were having were impacting businesses in the area. And he was also saying that not only did it affect Tennessee, but it also had some impact on Georgia and Alabama as well. Now it says here, widespread Wi-Fi and cell phone outages hit Tennessee and Kentucky after the blast, bringing down local 911 and emergency service phone systems. The telecommunications issues also caused problems for Nashville International Airport, which were forced to temporarily shut off some flight paths as a result. Agents also spent time searching another location on Saturday, as well as Warner's home, and spoke to a Nashville real estate agent who called in to say Warner used to work for him. Steve Fidrich told WSMV that Warner was a subcontractor who had done IT work for him for years. He claimed agents asked him about whether Warner had spoken about 5G in the past, but he said no. Nice guy, you know. He was a techie guy. Don't mean anything negative about that. He would do his thing and leave. He didn't bother anybody. He did his thing and leave. He did his thing and leave. Did his thing and left, I guess. Friedrich said officials on Saturday did not identify a suspect as the raid on the home began, but unmarried Warner has been named in media reports, and a vehicle matching the one used in the bombing is seen parked up beside the 2-bed house in Google Street View images. According to Newsweek, authorities will swab Warner's mother to determine if he is a match to the remains found at the bomb site. The second home that Warner had transferred to Swing was also located on Bakertown Road, just a short walk from the house raided on Saturday. We have some background here on Swing. It says, first lives in San Francisco before moved to Los Angeles in October 2018, where she works in artist development for On Shoot's entertainment group. The Daily Beast has reported that suspect Warner was previously arrested in January 1978 and found guilty on an unspecified felony charge in 1980. He has been described as an oddball by neighbors, some of whom had reported seeing the RV used in the explosion parked outside of his home. So for 40 years or so, he's been clean. Nothing much going on. That was 23 years old back then when he had those issues. Interesting what'll come out over the next few days and weeks, what we'll find out about the guy. Some people have talked about a manifesto, and that's what I was referring to earlier when I was saying that it seemed more like a lone wolf kind of act, the act itself to begin with. It just feels like something would come out shortly, that with all of the stuff the FBI has gathered, that if the information isn't too disparaging in any way to any particular organization or what have you, that we'll get a chance to hear it. And it will be interesting to see kind of where the chips fall with that. A lot of people out there, as I said, wanted to speculate whether it was a left or right issue. And I was out here saying, maybe. You know, it's possible that he had some kind of ideology where he lined up with one side or another. But my feeling was more so that he would be somebody who would just be the type of guy that that had a beef with somebody, had a beef with an agency, had a beef with a company, and slowly kind of got wrapped up in it somehow. Maybe he was in, I don't know, some kind of thread or forums where there was more of the conspiracy theory, as the media likes to say, and he just got wound up in that. And we've seen what people can do and what they can become when they get deranged and when they get dictated to by the media. When the media really likes to turn the screws on them and really dictate their actions and behaviors. We see TDS. We see the animals in the street that were out here for 4 or 5 or 6 months just breaking stuff, damaging stuff, all on false narratives. So we see the power of the spoken media, the written media. And so the feeling is, if you're not strong enough to resist that, or if you let that into your life in some way, that somehow it can eventually take you over. And maybe this just happened to him over time. Maybe over the years, he was just radicalized. Maybe he started to take in more and more information and just became paranoid. Again, those are just kind of things I'm throwing out there, just some things I'm thinking about as we get more and more information. So there's a little bit more. That seems to be all we have for now. What I'm curious to find out is how it's going to play out with the female. What's her involvement? How does she have the power? We know what power she may have, but how did she get $400,000 plus in properties out of this guy? Is he just a nice guy? Did she use her charm to help him deed the properties her way? Did he know he was going to do this and just was trying to be a nice guy? We don't know, so we're going to have to wait and find out. But it says here the feds are pursuing approximately 500 leads and have close to 250 agents and analysts assigned to the case. So that's all I've got on that, everybody. Again, like I said yesterday, the holidays it could be a rough time. And especially this year with the way that governments and officials have been effing people over with the Rona stuff, the fear in the media, on the job front, people losing their jobs and their livelihoods. You can see a situation where somebody would start to go down that road. And as I said yesterday, not to excuse anything, but I can certainly understand with all of the external forces that try to radicalize people and turn people against each other, turn people against others politically, race-based, gender-based, stuff like that. I can certainly see how somebody would get led astray if it does turn out to be that kind of thing. Whatever was going on in his life, whatever issues he was having, he just wasn't strong enough to fight it off and thought that this was the way, or felt some kind of way about some things that he thought might have been, that companies or governments might have been wronging him. Thanks for watching this video, and be well, everybody. Take care of yourself. And as I said, I know it's like impossible to know these things. If you see somebody or you know somebody that's kind of in a tough spot, just say, hey, I know that this guy was probably hiding out and nobody would have known. If people are struggling, just listen and see what they have to say, and just do your best to show some support for them. All right, everybody, be well.